Grand Budapest Hotel.
Sounds good.
Or the Grand Budapest Hotel. Do you know how rare it is to get a movie these days that actually goes for the in the title?
You reckon?
I mean, maybe it's just so they can remake it in 20 years and call it Grand Budapest Hotel. I don't know. This is the latest film from Wes Anderson. I'm not even sure what number of he's up to now. Is it 7 or 8?
Yeah.
So
hang on. Let me list them. Bottle Rocket, Rushmore, Royal Tenenbaums, Steve Zissou,
The Life Aquatic
Limited, yep.
Yeah.
And Moonrise Kingdom. Did I miss any?
Is that? I think that's right, yeah.
Yeah, so this is number 7.
And I think that there might have been a short film attached to the Darjeeling Limited, but that wouldn't count.
Hotel Chevalier or something like that.
Yeah. So this would be his 7th then, I guess.
Oh, Fantastic Mr. Fox as well. This is the 8th.
Oh, right, yes.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, cool. So I guess pretty much everyone's familiar with Wes Anderson. If you're not, I was just about to list out the films, but those are the ones that he's done. All right, so yeah, written as usual by Wes Anderson, but also story by Hugo Guinness and inspired by the works of Stefan Zweig, or Zweig, probably Zweig.
Zweig, yeah.
Yeah. The Adventures of Gustav H., a legendary concierge at a famous European hotel between the wars, and Zero Mustafa, the lobby boy who becomes his most trusted friend.
See, legendary concierge is already a hilarious phrase.
Yes.
Like, that doesn't make any sense at all. It's
no.
fantastic.
It's a good setup, yeah.
So how do you feel about Anderson in general, Dave? Before we get stuck into this, I think everyone's got an opinion on Wes Anderson, so it's nice to know where we stand.
Yeah, well, he makes such iconic individual worlds. There's no other filmmaker like him, and that's either a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's a really good thing. I guess like most other people, I think Royal Tenenbaums is pretty faultless. Can go back to that every now and then, and it still holds up pretty damn well. His visual style is just to die for. It's just incredible. And even going back and watching some of his earlier movies, like it took me a while to get back to Bottle Rocket and Rushmore, and they're surprisingly good as well for such a young filmmaker. Because
I think Rushmore is one of the best. That was the first one I watched back when it came out, and I just loved it, but then I didn't really gel with Royal Tenenbaums that much, or Bottle Rocket, in fact. Okay. I don't really like those films. I do like Life Aquatic, which a lot of people don't.
Yeah, I don't connect with that or the Darjeeling, so he did lose me over the last few years.
Yeah, Moonrise Kingdom didn't really move me either, although a lot of people really, really love that one.
That was the comeback for me was Moonrise Kingdom. I thought that was one of the best movies of the year. It had so much heart, which is normally what he's lacking in his movies, is there's too much artifice and not enough soul. Yep. And Moonrise Kingdom was just such a sweet story of young love and a first relationship, and it really worked really well. So you're about to say Fantastic Mr. Fox?
Yeah, so Fantastic Mr. Fox was just amazing. I avoided it when it came out. I think I was just a bit over Wes Anderson at the time. I couldn't be bothered seeing him do a stop motion thing. So it took me quite a while to get around to watching it, and it's one of my favourite Anderson films. It's so funny, and it's got a breakneck pace, and it's just, the voice acting's superb. Really, and the look of it, most of all, there's nothing else like it. It looks amazing. I loved that book when I was a kid as well.
It's funny, he makes live action films that look like nothing else, and then when he turns his hand to animation, that looks like nothing else as well.
He's almost, just suited to do animation, because a lot of his films have that vibe anyway. They kind of feel like they're living cartoons.
Yeah,
in a good
that's
way.
True. Yeah. A lot of people complain about Fantastic Mr. Fox, though, because it did seem like it was an animated movie and a child's story for adults, and it had absolutely no consideration for children at all.
Which, whatever.
I think that's fine. I think I don't see why you're not allowed to take a children's story and turn it into an adult story. It's not like it was crude or anything, like it wasn't suited for kids. It was just that it would have flown over their heads, I think, and they wouldn't have enjoyed it very much. But I thought it was pretty interesting as well. It's I will forever remember, back in the days, it was like a couple of years ago, and I think they still have them now, the movie boxes, things like the kiosks, where you go, it's sort of like a vending machine for movies. And when you buy it, you have to return it by 5 p.m. the next day, or else you get charged for another one. So back in the day when this came out, I did not have much money, and so I had to be really careful about whatever I did. So I rented this movie, and I remember realizing at like 3 in the afternoon or something the following day that I hadn't actually watched it. So I remember putting it on, and then I think it's only 90 minutes, or however the time ran. I got to the last 15 minutes and I just couldn't watch it because I had to put it in the disc and run it back to the machine. So to this day, I still haven't seen the last 10 minutes of Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yeah, well, so that's basically it for me. I'm pretty hit and miss with Wes Anderson. Should we go to a clip before we delve into the review?
Yeah, sure. So this is from, I guess, the section of the film that really kicks in the kind of caper aspect. I mean, this is another movie, like Most Wanted, that is sort of a tale of a guy on the run for a while. I mean, it goes all over the place. Before we get too much into that, though, this is our famous concierge, played by Ralph Fiennes, being accused of taking over an elderly woman's will and estate, I guess.
Language warning as well.
He's a concierge. What are you doing here?
I've come to pay my respects to a great woman whom I loved.
This man is an intruder in my home.
It's not yours yet, Dimitri. Only when probate is granted and the deed of entitlement is
You're
given.
not getting boy with apple, you goddamn little fruit.
How's that supposed to make me feel?
Call the police. We're pressing charges. This criminal has plagued my family for nearly 20 years. He's a ruthless adventurer and a con artist who preys on mentally feeble, sick old ladies. And he probably fucks them, too.
I go to bed with all my friends.
That works nearly as well just with the audio as it does with the actual image on the screen as well. I really like this movie. I'm going to come straight out and say it. I think, and there's plenty to get through of things that are just brilliant about it. It doesn't, I know a lot of people have been giving it 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10 and so on. For me, it lacks some of the warmth that Moonrise Kingdom had in spades. But, I mean, this is just a really fun, enjoyable movie, and I don't think it really needed that warmth particularly. But that's why, I guess, for me, it ends up being a really good, really enjoyable film rather than a really brilliant Wes Anderson movie. A lot of people are saying this is his best since Royal Tenenbaums, or his best to date. And I don't quite see it getting there because it doesn't cover all the bases I think you need to get to that point. But I had a really, really good time with this. And there's nothing like sitting in the cinema and seeing such imagery come up, and it's just beautiful. I think we were saying before we went into the cinema, neither one of us has actually seen a Wes Anderson film in cinemas before.
Right, yeah.
So it really was a divine experience to actually see it on screen like that.
Yeah, I was saying I saw Rushmore at the cinema after the fact, like a re-release thing. But yeah, I've never actually seen a new Wes Anderson film, so that was kind of cool. A lot of the things with Anderson films is, because these characters are so sort of removed from reality sometimes, everyone talks in a very strange way. You're pretty much always aware of the artifice in Wes Anderson films, and especially with his obsessive compulsion to frame shots in just the right way, and his use of colour and everything. So often it's very hard to feel for the characters in any real connective way because they're just not real. And that's definitely the case with this film. However, because the focus isn't really on the emotional side of the characters, the focus is on just this preposterous plot, I guess, and the fact that it's kind of about storytelling as well. I mean, the film starts off with a little girl reading a book, and then we go into that the author of that book in his early years, telling about meeting the guy that's telling his earlier story. So it just sort of goes deeper and down this rabbit hole, and that's that's a really amazing technique. And of course, the fact that the aspect ratio changes depending on what era we're in. So you've got Academy ratio for the majority of the film that's set in this sort of between the wars era, and then you've got this beautiful big widescreen for the 70s sequences. Anyway, overall, I love this film. It's probably my favourite Wes Anderson film so far.
Right, okay. So you're one of those guys.
I am totally one of those guys. It just blew me away. I mean, everything about it is just beautiful. You could take any frame of this and put it on the wall and frame it, It just... I loved... it was all of a sudden, all the things that sometimes annoyed me about how he does, how particular he is about composition, everything just worked, because I just felt that everything was just amazing. And I love the Academy ratio. I think having the sort of the square screen really worked with his sort of... with his style, I guess, and it was just nice.
Oh, is that what you mean with Academy ratio is actually the 4:3, the
exactly.
box?
Yeah, the
so it's
box.
not the widescreen.
No.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so the old,
the old-fashioned...
Yep.
Okay.
Before widescreen, really.
Right, because that was actually one of the things... I mean, I appreciated what he was doing there with that, giving you the old... for those that aren't aware of 4:3, it's like an old square TV kind of, how it looks. But it's... I found that kind of... It worked okay, but it really hampered how his... I mean, he sets up each scene so beautifully that it... And also, he does a lot of panning, like horizontal panning, so he loves setting up a static shot and then sort of dollying across in a very straight fashion from left to right to show another aspect. And it just seemed like he really utilizes a very wide screen really well, and so when he's boxed in like that, it was fine and it worked fine, and you do also sort of forget about it, but he does definitely definitely work better, I think, with a wider
Yeah,
screen.
no, I don't agree. I think it just really reinforced what he was trying to do with the storytelling thing. It just, having the box screen really worked for me because it just sort of reminded you that you were watching a story within a story, I guess. I really love that aspect of it. His use of colours is just phenomenal in this. I mean, everything is so well thought out. Every different room in this hotel has its own colour sequence, and the costumes, work really well against that. There's a lot of throwbacks to a lot of older films as well that I really love. There's a lot of early Hitchcock in here. There's a lot of Ernst Lubitsch wartime comedies, and there's probably more than a little bit of the film Grand Hotel, which I reviewed a few Classic Corners ago.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just really nice to see these little nods to early Hollywood, I guess. Obviously, the films were inspired by the writings of this guy, Stefan Zweig. Now, I don't really know what this guy did. Apparently something to do with, he was big about storytelling, this writer. So that's sort of, and probably from this era as well. And yeah, I like the fact that it's a fake country as well, so you're not tied down to history. It still exists in Wes Anderson's own little world that he's created, and it is like reading a storybook sometimes, especially with the miniature work and the external shots of the mountains and stuff. Nothing looks quite real, and it just works so well. And I like the way he did that with the cross section of the submarine and Life Aquatic as well. And I guess the Tenenbaum's house has that same sort of dollhouse sort of feel as the camera moves around. I do appreciate all that sort of stuff he does, but it just some of the parts doesn't always equal for a film that really engages me sometimes, whereas every single directorial choice he seemed to make in this film just clicked with me, and I couldn't get enough of it. I was amazed.
Yeah.
The screenplay also is a lot more adult than it usually is. There's got to be more swearing in this than I've ever heard in a Wes Anderson film. He seems to pitch it a bit younger, mostly, like a PG-13 sort of rating, but I could be wrong. Maybe his other films have been R as well, but I was surprised just how adult the script was. And
from memory, it's the most profane.
Yeah,
and gory as well in parts.
Yeah, surprisingly, that was fantastic. But the language is really interesting because, especially with these characters that are just so formal and upright, and when they burst into swearing, it's so shocking every time it happens, and it's a great use of profane language. I loved it.
That's one of my most favorite parts about this movie, particularly when Ray Fiennes' concierge. He's such a finely tuned man, very proper, everything you would expect of an upmarket concierge to be. But then he has these lapses into just utter profanity, and he really just loses that veneer very briefly, and then he retains composure again. It's such a fantastic performance and a really excellent character, and it works too. Like, it doesn't feel cartoonish at any point. It actually feels like a well-rounded character, a man who carries himself with such pride and has such a fine veneer, but he's more than willing to, like, it doesn't take much to break that veneer.
Yeah.
And you see that with a lot of characters, like Adrian Brody in that clip when he's accusing the concierge. So going back over almost everything you said, I completely agree with. The way the storytelling goes, like the framing, there's a story inside a story inside a story, and I think that really helps because essentially what we have is a story about a hotel that seems slightly too majestic to ever really have existed, and slightly too Wes Anderson-y to ever have really existed, with a concierge that seems too bizarre to ever really have existed, going on some kind of a journey and a caper, and he's being accused of stealing famous and expensive artwork.
He's been accused of murder.
He's been accused of murder, yes. He's on the run from a family of the elderly women that are just so cartoonish, like Willem Dafoe's villain is almost like a gothic vampire hitman kind of, just really funny, over-the-top performance, but all these elements are so over-the-top. But because they're put inside a story, it almost feels like the result you get when you play Chinese Whispers is that a story starts off kind of in a simple fashion, and then the more it gets told down the line, the more it descends into this crazy kind of really outlandish tale. Yeah, so I love all of that, and it means that it gets away with anything. They're going on a high-speed ski chase, and again using miniatures at points that work really well, and stuff that's just totally preposterous, but you're completely invested in it because it feels right. Everything seems to make sense, and it is also the most Wes Anderson-y of Wes Anderson films.
It feels like he's been building up to this for his career.
It does, yeah. It feels like everything else was sort of practice, and now he's actually made it, and everything gels. And I was worried, because I do generally like his movies, but when they don't work, like Life Aquatic or Darjeeling Limited, particularly Darjeeling,
It's so melodramatic, that film. It doesn't work at all.
It doesn't work at all, no. And it feels that I can find him really aggravating when he doesn't. He needs to hit the mark completely, or else it really doesn't work for me. And this really did work.
He's such he's so ripe for parody as well, because he has a very distinct style that you can immediately recognize as Wes Anderson-y. He's probably suffered a lot of just having that distinct style, so everyone knows exactly what he's going for. So it can be hard to surprise the audience as well. And most of his critics would say that he does make the same film over and over again. I mean, I wouldn't agree with that. I'd say they're all pretty strikingly different, but because he does have that through line all the way.
It's almost like he's created a universe, and each movie is a different planet in this universe, and you can see how they're connected, but they're by no means the same movie. Definite fingerprints all over it, though. But yeah.
So with the characters, I was saying that I didn't have to feel like I was invested in them because they didn't feel that real, which is often the case. But then I got to say, I was surprised. It was almost like having the rug pulled out from under me, because by the end of the film, I did really care about the characters, and I was really moved with how events played out. I guess won't go into any details there, but I mean, I was caring about all the characters by the end, and that just really surprised me because I didn't expect that to happen at all, and I don't know how he did that. I guess because I wasn't thinking about it, I wasn't prepared for it. I was just enjoying this really crazy story. But by the end of it, I was really in love and really cared about what happened to these guys. So
yeah. I mean, particularly the concierge and Zero Mustafa as played. So I'm not sure who Zero played by.
I didn't write it down.
No, that's cool.
Newcomer, I assume.
Yeah, a new actor who just does a stellar job. And I guess what Wes Anderson is best at is he's always dealing with some sort of family trouble or a sort of intertwined group of people and sort of family dynamics. But he's always really best when he's dealing with the younger characters. So like in Moonrise Kingdom, when he had to, when he's working with the 12 or 13-year-old actors and having them fall in love, those were the moments where you really connected with the emotions in the film and with the characters and the themes and all that. And then when you get to the adults, they're always kind of these weird caricatures that are sort of there just to make us laugh. But then in this movie, they feel more sort of fully fleshed, I think, than normal. Yeah. Have you got the Mr. Zero there, or is that?
Yeah, sorry, it's so many to get through. I didn't write down any of these names because this cast list is so immense.
That's another thing about the movie is that it's got everyone that's sort of ever worked with him, but kind of sidelined too, like Bill Murray and Owen Wilson. Who else is there that's in it? There's like Jason Schwartzman. All these guys are sort of confined to maybe 5 or 10 minutes of screen time, and we're really given pretty much the entire film over to Ray Fiennes and Mr.
Who does it? So the guy's name is Tony Revelry, I guess. Anyway,
right? Okay. He was Stella.
Yeah, he was fantastic. But Ray Fiennes, of course, doing a comedic role doesn't happen that often, and I think it probably surprised a lot of people how adept he was, because he's just he's really genuinely funny, but he also, like I said, manages to continue to carry this three-dimensional character through all this wackiness and make it believable, make it make sense, and make you care. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Do you think there's a lot of people have been comparing this to like a Hitchcockian kind of wrong man thing?
Sure.
For me, it really felt more like a Coen Brothers, like a Wes Anderson takes a Coen Brothers kind of story, because you do have that sort of man out of his element, but then dealing with villains that are so over the top and situations that seem so farcical and seem not really. This didn't really feel like a black comedy, although I guess it could be in parts.
Yeah.
Not as black as the Coens can get, but it definitely felt like it was tinged more with a Coen Brothers kind of everything's going wrong and are spiraling completely out of control, but still there's this one man in the center of all this trouble, and you know that he's innocent.
You are describing a Hitchcock film when you say that, though.
Yes,
so
I know.
I see what you mean, but I didn't.
There's a way. I think that Hitchcock though always went about those with a much more seriousness to it. He didn't have.
I wouldn't think so, man. Like Hitchcock was a very playful director.
No, yes, he was very playful, but he didn't have over the top villains, and he didn't have over.
Sure, he did.
Well, not completely over-the-top villains.
Well, look, I think the Coens is too much of a recent touchstone for this film to be looking at. Obviously, they're peers and people are going to borrow all the time.
Oh, I'm not saying it's an intentional thing. I'm just saying this is what it reminded me more of a Coen's take on it than a Hitchcock.
I was just thinking
take on it.
more earlier cinema, I think, when I was watching it. I just think he just seemed to be so signposting sometimes with the old references to the earlier films. So I didn't feel like it was ever very contemporary at all, but that's fair enough.
There is a lot of nostalgia in the film, for sure, yeah. It's just that I guess basically just when it comes to the completely outlandish, almost comical kind of situations, which, Hitchcock did do, but I guess the Coen brothers took the Hitchcock elements and amplified them to this kind of ridiculousness, and then this feels like Wes Anderson is doing a similar sort of thing, painting it with his own brushes. It was they're all intertwined but it is a very nostalgic movie, that's for sure. Yeah.
And I was mentioning before the Ernst Lubitsch comedies from the 40s and stuff. He always had a great way of doing very buffoonish Nazis, and I feel, obviously they're not Nazis in this film, but that's sort of what they're going for. I mean, all these sort of strange countries like, what is it, Zabrovka is the fictional country, which is also fantastic bison grass vodka.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why I knew it.
Yep.
I couldn't work out why I knew what Zabrovka was.
Yeah.
I kept thinking, everyone's saying it's a fictional country. I'm sure I've never heard of it as a country, but I know that name. And it is. It's a really good, and pretty cheap, actually.
Yeah, that's great.
Pretty cheap
Polish
vodka,
vodka, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, what was that? So these dark forces are sort of spreading across these lands, and various countries are falling to these guys. And it's so funny because their insignia is sort of like the SS logo, except it's called the zigzag or something. Yeah. It's nice because it just sort of it has all these touchstones to real world events, and there's so many things that put it clearly in that point in history. But it's completely made up. And I love the fact that everyone's name is ridiculous. Like it's such a Mel Brooks thing to do, to just give characters wacky names that when they're said out loud in this very quickly spoken dialogue, you can't help but laugh. Like the main antagonist family name is something taxi or something. I can't remember what it was now, but every time that the names are thrown out there, it was just obviously there for giggles, for nothing else.
And it really helps because you actually remember who people are. Like there's a small part, a character named Serge, who in a lot of other movies you would be forgetting who that guy is, but just because everyone's named so iconically, that when they switch between, when you're dealing with 15 sort of not main characters, but characters that they're gonna be recurring, that we know who everyone is and in what era they are as well.
Exactly. And I think there's a lot of signage and stuff with just funny European sounding words, but I'm sure they're not the real words that were being used then. Like at one point they're at a petrol station, there's a huge sign that says Fuelits, which I'm sure is not what you'd call a petrol station in that country, but it's just great. It's just like, okay, I get it. That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Another. This seems like a weird thing to like, but I appreciated how brief this movie was. It pretty much bang on 90 minutes. I think plus credits.
That's an excellent point, because you probably can't really carry on this madcap energy for any longer than 90 minutes. You're going to get some sort of fatigue setting in if you have to deal with these crazy scenarios for much longer. So that's a good point. I think it's a great taut movie that just gets everything out it needs to in a short amount of time.
And it feels like that's what happens with a lot of movies over the last couple of years, that you feel like they were good, but they could have been improved. And generally, if you look at it, it's probably because they're 2 hours, they're half an hour too long. And so you've gone through this period of really enjoying yourself down to what you just said. You're fatigued by the time you get to 90 minutes, and then you have to sit through the rest of it just so it can end. And this didn't really ever feel like it needed to be any longer, it needed to be any shorter. It was such a big story told so economically. It was
because it was so fast paced. I think he managed to fit in so much screenplay into a little. I think it had that sort of feel of His Girl Friday as well, with the fact that every character talks so damn fast, so you can fit more plot into a shorter amount of time.
That's true, yeah. I mean, they almost were at times on par with that kind of talking. Yeah, pretty damn fast. Yeah. But yeah, I really appreciated it. It felt like it was almost like a gesture to the audience. Yeah. It was kind of like, it was just a nice act to do. It's weird because we don't get that very often.
And there's so many just really simple sight gags in here as well that are just genuinely funny. Like, one of my favourite Wes Anderson sight gag of all time, I think, is in Rushmore with Bill Murray hiding behind a tree, right? It's just, I don't know if you remember this, but it's so buffoonish. Like, he's trying to be a bit charming, and he's trying to talk to this girl, but he's embarrassed.
They out on the school oval or something?
Yeah. He's trying to talk to the teacher, and it's just this really funny little sight thing, And on par with that in this film is the moment where Gustav learns that he's under suspicion for murder, and he just finishes a sentence and then turns and runs like a Looney Tunes character. It was so funny, and no one knows what to do for a moment, and they start chasing him, and it's just such a there was so many things I was laughing out loud. It was just so well put together.
Yeah, and there's another really good touch where the story is being recounted by the older Zero, who's played by F. Murray Abraham.
For some reason.
Yeah, I know, which doesn't make sense, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it doesn't
and
matter
you
at
could
all.
tell the younger Zero was never going to grow into look anything like this guy. So he's at the huge dining area in this old hotel, recounting his story to Jude Law, who's the younger version of the author who the story opened up with, and they're just making sure that everything is being served to Zero properly, because he's the eccentric owner of the hotel, and he only comes by briefly, and they want to make sure he has a very good time. So they sort of rally around him very quickly. Jason Schwartzman does a very funny sort of routine with him, and then just when you think he's gone, the camera goes to Jude Law, who's talking to Zero, and in the background you see Jason Schwartzman just lean backwards into the frame to make sure that everything's fine, and then lean back out. And it's full of moments like that that are so small but are so funny and are so just so subtle. There's a lot of subtlety to this. I feel like you could watch this movie over and over again, particularly because of the pace, and it would still be improved.
Oh, I reckon. But yeah, I was just marveling at the frame for most of the film. Like, just the fact that he managed to cram so much information into the Academy ratio frame, for one thing, and just the pace and how it moves. Yeah, I just adored this film.
What did you think of? I thought she was very good, but Tilda Swinton playing the elderly lady, and this is probably one of the best examples of old age makeup we've seen in a while.
That's true, yeah.
Sort of,
which, as we know, it's a terrible, really hard thing to do, and filmmakers often don't get it right.
It did sort of throw me off a bit, though. I mean, a similar thing happened in Prometheus with Guy Pearce. Yeah. He was playing an elderly man in old age makeup that was good, but wasn't that good. And we found out later that that was because he had filmed scenes as a young man that were then chopped out of the film. So they were
used for promotional viral marketing as well.
Oh, that's right. Videos
of Guy Pearce as a young character online.
Yes, that's right. But I think that they were also meant to have some scenes of him in the movie.
I believe so, probably,
yeah. So they got cut out. So we were left with this jarring kind of thing in Prometheus where you have an old man, a very, very old man, played by a recognizable young actor. And we have the same thing here, and people are always complaining, a lot of elderly women in Hollywood are complaining that the roles simply aren't there for them. I just couldn't understand why it was that an elderly lady needed to be played by a very recognizable actress of of a fairly young age. I mean, she did a good job and she looked great and she was convincing and it was funny.
Yeah.
I just don't quite understand why she was there.
I'd say probably the same reason that F. Murray Abrahams plays the older Zero is because Wes Anderson simply felt that they were the best people for the job, and I think that's why Tilda ends up in that role, is because that's the way Wes wants it, and I think that's fine. I mean, I feel that he'd be a bit obsessive-compulsive about a lot of aspects of his filmmaking. I don't know. I haven't seen any documentaries of the guy or anything, but I just
he looks very particular. I mean.
Yeah, he and I just don't think there would have been any option. He would have had these people in mind. He would have asked them. They would have said yes, and that would be the end of it. You know, he wouldn't have had to compromise too much. So you're saying that it should have been an actual old lady?
I'm not saying it should have been, because it worked really well with Tilda Swinton, and she was very convincing, and it was one of those things where you sort of wondering...
I didn't even recognise her.
That's right.
I knew I'd seen the trailer, so I knew she was in it. I knew that was her under the makeup, but I mean, even knowing that it was Tilda Swinton, it didn't look anything like her. It was incredible.
No, in the middle of the movie, I thought it was her, but I was unsure, and I had to check later on. It's just, I mean, that's fine, and it worked really well. I guess I was just wondering why you would get an actress who's probably, in her early 40s maybe, to play a woman who's meant to be in her late 80s.
Well, it's a bit of a moot point, isn't it? It worked.
Yes, it did work, yeah. I guess actually the reason I'm bringing it up is because there are a lot of elderly actresses in Hollywood that aren't getting work and are saying that the roles simply aren't there for them. So when there is a role like this there for them and then it goes to a younger actress...
Yeah, that's a good point.
That was a bit jarring.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's not a huge deal. It worked. It's just that's a outside the film kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
But yeah, I mean, overall, I really, really enjoyed it. And talking through it, I think I enjoyed it even more now, I mean, there's so much to love. It's funny. There's so many good actresses and actors in this. Lea Seydoux from
Blue is the Warmest Color.
Yeah, she has absolutely no lines, and she's just in the background.
When is she?
I was trying to remember what part of the movie she was in, and it's for some reason it's completely lost me. I was trying to remember last night. But she's like an assistant in another. Maybe was it in the? It might have been in the Dead Woman's House. She might have been like an assistant.
Was she the maid?
She was the maid.
Oh, okay. I didn't even recognize her.
Yeah. I didn't either until I looked through the cast list and worked out it was her. So she just had a major role as the blue-haired girl in the French movie Blue is the Warmest Color. And then
she's had big roles before though. Like,
she's
a well-known actress. Yeah.
Yeah. I just thought it was funny to see she had such a huge pivotal role in this movie, and then now in Grand Budapest Hotel, she's just in the background, completely silent. She might be in 2 scenes.
She has a few lines.
Does she really?
Yeah.
Oh, right. I don't even remember her talking.
I'm pretty sure, if it's one I'm thinking of. But
yeah. Okay.
But if you think about all the other huge actors that are in this film that are only there for a little bit, I mean, it's just the par for the course. Everyone's happy to pitch in and do a couple of days' work on a Wes Anderson picture.
Yeah, that's what I liked about it, was that even the smaller roles are going to really, really competent people. Yep. Like it's very finely tuned. Like all these roles are very finely tuned. I
love the Cross Keys Society sequence where they're going through all the different hotels in the area, and everyone has their own sort of color scheme, and you've got all these great actors portraying the other concierges. I love that whole thing. That was really special.
And just the concept that when a concierge is in trouble, who does he call? The network of concierges. It's like Batman's League of Shadows.
Totally.
Well, actually, not like the League of Shadows, but it's like there's a league. Yeah, that's right. It's Super Friends. Like this league of concierges that come out of the woodwork to help their kind. They're proud people.
Yeah, oh, man, it was so crazy. So I adored it. I think that's all I've got to say about the film, though. But,
me too. Oh, actually, there was a theory going around. I think at the time, maybe Moonrise Kingdom came out, someone wrote an essay on the idea of Wes Anderson's characters always needing to walk in straight lines. I guess because that's the way the camera moves a lot of the time. We go from left to right, and they need to walk in the frame, and then they'll walk straight backwards. I think that happened a lot in Moonrise Kingdom, particularly with the scouts, and then the way the kids were walking on the beach and things like that. Mm-hmm. I should have probably looked back into this before bringing it up, because I read this years ago. So I was keenly looking out for it in this movie, and it does occur, but it felt like it was much looser, and it wasn't as strictly adhered to. Like if a character did need to walk from one area to another, he was allowed to walk in an almost diagonal fashion. It felt like it was less rigid, and maybe that's one of the subtle differences that makes this work. Not a conscious difference.
But I didn't really feel. I felt that everyone did. It was quite rigid, but I was okay with that. Like for me, it kind of works like an intricate clockwork mechanism. The whole film, the whole way the characters interact with each other, everyone has a path that they're following, and I think that's fine. And I think it's just one of those things that just doesn't always work for me with his other films. I can't quite put my finger on it why I love this film so much more than his other pictures. I have no idea really, but everything just seems to work.
Yeah, it's just like everything really came together properly and it actually functioned, whereas sometimes the characters and the story is just, it's too arch, it's too self-aware, and it seems too, the artifice is
too cold to the touch usually.
That's right, yeah. And so that, I mean, as much as I enjoyed the Grand Budapest Hotel, I don't think it will make like a top 10, which I mean is a very hard thing to do anyway, but simply because it didn't have much warmth until the end. And you're right that it does. You are surprised by the end.
So you were caught by surprise by that as well. You actually cared about.
Yeah, by the end, events. I really cared about the two main characters towards the end for sure. Yeah, but only towards the end. Apart from that, I was just very interested in them. And very interested to see such a crazy, wacky story. Yeah. But it doesn't, it's just a fun caper. It's a really fun, it's sort of like Muppets Most Wanted, but on a much sort of grander scale, right? It's a very enjoyable time, very well done. I mean, obviously a lot more work and effort has gone into the Grand Budapest Hotel. I think it's a much more accomplished piece of work. But they're both, I just feel like they don't really amount to everything that everyone is saying Budapest amounts to. Oh, can I actually
disagree?
Okay, no, and that's fine. And I guess I can see. I mean, it's a brilliant movie. I'm glad that we didn't have to have an argument about Budapest, because I've heard several reviewers saying Budapest. Mm-hmm. If we go to Paris, we're not going to fucking Paris. Mm-hmm. So it's Budapest.
Yep.
Budapest Hotel.
Yep.
Okay.
Happy with that.
All right.
All right. Also out this week is Divergent, which you mentioned before.